Hello, hello. Welcome to Open House Buildathon Kickoff panel with our very amazing founders from the Arbitrum ecosystem. The topic that we're going to be talking about today, folks, is building globally from India. As you all know, and I'm sure a lot of you have gotten context on what Open House is about, but it is my job, responsibility, and a very big honor to actually introduce it again. Open House is a multi-pronged program focused on builders that we're doing in India. It's the maiden version happening in India of a global program where we start with learn educating builders, creators, contributors on the Arbitrum ecosystem and about the larger Web3 technology. That follows by with online buildathon. This is the one that we're starting today, where we have our amazing founders from Huddle, CapX, and NodeOps. Talking about how did they go about building from India and have now captured hearts, minds, and heads of the global audience. This will be followed by an IRL Hacker House component starting from 18 to 21st September. So if you're interested in all of these or any of these, please go to openhouse.arbitrum.io and register for them. Welcome, folks. Welcome, Ayush. Welcome, Vaibhav, and welcome, Mrudul. Super, super glad to have you guys here. And without taking a lot of your time, quickly going to introduce you and then handing over the stage to you for 30 seconds to add more to your introduction and to your stories. So we have Ayush, who is the CEO and co-founder of Huddle 01. He's building a deep empowered real-time communication network and the DRTC L3 lands on Arbitrum Orbit. We also have Vaibhav Tyagi, who's the co-founder of CapX AI. He's shipping the CapX chain and Ethereum L2 built with Arbitrum Nitro and Orbit Stack for building, owning, and trading AI apps and agents. We have Mrudul Gole, who is the head of business development at NodeOps. It's a chain agnostic infra with deep in orchestration. It supports Arbitrum L2, L3 projects and is launching an Orbit powered L3 very soon. I'm your moderator. I take care of the India community for Arbitrum Foundation. And welcome again to our panelists. Would love to hear quickly from you, Ayush, more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks Aditi for having me here. I'm Ayush, and I've been building Huddle for almost 5 years now. We're very fortunate to work with Arbitrum for the last 2 years now. Huddle is as Aditi mentioned, it's a decentralized real-time connectivity network. That means anything low latency, anything high bandwidth could be powered by the network itself. We start by building the app first. So we have an app very similar to how Zoom or StreamYard looks like, which essentially has also crossed 1 billion minutes of meeting so far. But we have our own network. That means anyone who requires any kind of low latency stuff can use the network to build any kind of powerful stuff. We are in L3 on Arbitrum, and it's been a fun ride. I'm really excited what's happening in India now.
Awesome. Excited to be working on a lot more things together. Vaibhav, what's your quick story?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's been more than a year and a half now since we have been building CapX AI. It's essentially it's a protocol to support the AI builder economy, the solopreneurs. What it essentially boils down to is that in the next coming years we're going to be seeing, and we've already started seeing, a lot of single people companies popping up. And the future is about these people building their own companies, products, and entire ecosystems by just very lean teams. So we just wanted to this narrative is picking up, and this is going to be huge. So we just wanted to see that how can we contribute to this? How can we give these people the tools, the platform, the protocol, essentially to build ship these things, to make them live, to even raise funds. So all of that is now packed into one product, which is CapX Super App, and then that is essentially a place where you can list your AI app, you can launch your AI token, and the other parts of it which are supporting CapX app are things like CapX Cloud and CapX Chain. So CapX Chain is where everything on chain happens, and everything with respect to compute and cloud happens on CapX Cloud.
Wow, that's a lot of power pack stuff packed all together. Mrudul, what about you?
Hey, thank you, Aditi. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, NodeOps, I think Naman, Pratik, and Jagdish have been building NodeOps infra and have been in the infra space for more than 5 years now. I mean, but like the journey for us kind of started off almost over a year back, where we started off as like a NAS, the one-click deployment layer, where now also supporting almost majorly more than 50 plus chains deployed over 68,000 plus nodes and have over $150 million worth of assets under management. The idea was like, why not like make, because all this workload was coming down to some centralized providers and were managed over there. It made total sense for us to have our own infra layer in place, and that's how we did testnet. Now on mainnet have over 23,000 plus compute providers, both GPUs and CPUs, and just amazed by the amount of compute that we are getting in. Now it's more about building on top of it with our RPC services, with our AI agent terminal, then there's Security Hub and much more. So you'll see a lot more products coming out from NodeOps in next couple of months and years.
That's super cool. And congratulations, by the way. The mainnet is a pretty recent launch. So great job on that. Now, without wasting any further time, I have a question for all of y'all. Since we're talking about how do we go about building global projects from India, name one simple product design that helped you serve users in different countries. Now, it could be about speed, it could be solving about payments, it could be about support, anything. It could be tech, could be non tech. What was it and what really changed after you made it for your product? So, Ayush, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best thing what you can do is that launch an MVP as fast as possible. That's what we did. So, as with all of the other panelists here, there are multiple products which we have, but the best thing which we did was on the consumer side of things, which is the customer persona, where anyone who basically wants to communicate. So we launched an app, got a lot of tons of feedback on it, and that essentially created that loop of active feedbacks just while having an open conversation on X. So that's what I'd recommend to do. I think that really helps you in making sure that your product gets matured over time. And same thing which we did with other set of products as well, which is huddle set on nodes. That means people, the customer persona there is people who are running these nodes themselves. There we work with NodeOps as well on that part of things. The third thing is our own chain, which is an L3. That's a completely different persona. And then we have our own set of the network where people can use this network to do any kind of low latency stuff. This is where we realize that for doing anything, the best thing is just to drop that out in the market as an MVP. And once you do that, you get very active feedback. For doing that, it's very important that you build a day one distribution as fast as possible, because if you do that, you get a lot of people to give you active feedbacks. Plus, the best thing about crypto is that if you have any kind of incentive programs, I think a lot of panelists also have that, is here is having point system and stuff like that. That really helps in people basically coming back to your product again and again, giving you feedbacks on it. And there's also a kind of an external motivation for people which can catalyze the actual internal motivation. So that's the way in which, if you build the product like that and launch it like that, that really helps you get that mass attention which is needed to get that active feedback.
Got it. No, no, makes absolute sense that you want to not wait too long to chasing after perfection, actually launch at an MVP stage. And I think we don't give points, credits, airdrops enough credit, honestly, but they do help with getting us to the right, a much, much smaller relevant user pool. But I think the kind of flywheel, at least they help starting, makes a lot of sense. Weber, what about you? What was that one product design feature? Um,
Yeah, I mean, Ayush covered a lot of it. I think one of the things which really like changed for us was once we figured the onboarding. I think onboarding is something which is not really that focused upon, and it's sort of like given, like what is onboarding? It's a sign up, login, a couple of screens, and the user starts using the app. But that is something where we, I think, spend I would say 50% of our time as part of like product building initially. And that was because once you crack onboarding and once you make, let's say, onboarding either extremely simple or extremely intriguing, you kind of retain the user into the product for much longer period of time, and like you can like educate them about the product or whatever you're trying to do in a much more interactive way. So I think onboarding was something which initially we started with the Telegram mini app. So the onboarding was extremely seamless. Like, it just open and there was no login screen to begin with. And your wallet used to get created. Everything just used to happen automatically in the background. You used to get like NFTs minted into your wallet initially, and like everything was like extremely seamless. But then once we moved out of the Telegram mini app space and we went into web app, and eventually, let's say if we do like an iOS native app, something which will be which would either like it's not just about us being apart from like everyone else, but it's also about like as user once they enter CapX, what do they see first, and how easy or how many seconds does it take for them to get inside the product. So like a web app experience, even today, like you don't really have to log in anywhere in order to like experience the web app initially. And once if you actually want to trade or you want to like start using some features, then you only log in. And then even the login is like extremely simple, like WhatsApp deep linking or like something like Telegram deep linking. So it just takes a few seconds for you to like then start using the product. The wallet gets created, the NFTs get minted, still like all of that happens in the background. So you never even realize that you're in a Web3 app. So I think making those parts invisible and making onboarding extremely seamless is something which everyone should focus on more.
Yeah, no, true abstraction there. I don't know. I mean, I did read some data somewhere which said that more than 50%, actually a lot bigger number of people drop off, in the onboarding sign-up process itself on dApps.
Yeah.
And so it justifies the effort of 50% that y'all put into
It's
solving
more
for
than
that.
70%, I think. Yeah.
Easily, that's what I'm like, it just justifies that 50%. Coming to you, Mrudul, what about NodeOps? What were you all doing there? What did you all make there?
Yeah, sure. I think definitely Tyagi and Ayush have covered a lot of it. But I think um, our biggest, I think, a differentiating factor for NodeOps has always been the simplicity and ease with which retail users kind of access our infra. And that definitely goes into that one-click thing. But the bigger challenge for us kind of came in when we were looking to onboard new compute to the whole ecosystem. And now, when I say onboarding compute, it kind of gets very technical for someone to, okay, set up some software in a machine or then just register it through our whole onboarding most machine process and so on and so forth. So we again kind of made it very simple, like not just like going through a lot of documentation, very simple prompts in terms of 1, 2, 3, and that's pretty much it. That's how you work. And we give total basically clarity in terms of how much workload is being utilized from your compute, how much rewards you are getting for that perspective, and so on and so forth. So that one thing kind of helped us very much like localize the way we kind of onboarded compute, and we've seen like compute coming in from Germany, US, Nigeria, Turkey, and I think we've crossed over 50 countries now that we have compute coming in from. So that's like one big design or product decision that we had always in mind to how to make it very accessible to retail at the end of the day.
Got it. Got it. No, makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, guys. I think those were very interesting points for folks who are watching this live stream to take notes on. We now have specific questions for all of y'all. Going first with Vaibhav. Since you're building CapX AI, and I would love to understand from that perspective, building the experience building CapX, what makes buyers trust a brand new AI tool? Is it ratings? Is it refunds, live demos, trials? What is it? And if I've missed any of these options, what is it in context of CapX that got people to trust it and then got them making, building, owning, trading AI bots on CapX?
Right. So I think, I mean, as an industry, we are obsessed with trust, and I understand that. But if we really like look into like how users really think, people don't really care that much about trust. Of course, it's a for them it's a good to have even still. Like, most of the mass adoption comes from if of course, like if the app kind of solves a very critical problem to begin with, and secondly, if it's fun to use, if it's something which you can probably like share with your 5 friends or family, and they also like find it some utility in it, and they also want to use it. I'll give an example, very recent one, like Ghibli make I would say like Ghibli, the whole movement which OpenAI did with ChatGPT. I know so many people who like, people from my parents' generation who pinged me and they were like that, how do we do this? And I was just sharing my chat GPT credentials with everyone so that they could do it. And nobody really cared even for a second that their picture is going to be like, shared, or like, will be used for training or any of those things. Like nobody really had any privacy concerns. All they wanted to do was become part of like, create these things and push stories on their Instagrams or whatever. So I think, if you can make something which has some use case and which is like fun and like and kind of gets people going, um, and kind of maybe in some cases it could solve a very integral part of their life, or maybe it could be just like, like a game is just fun, or it's something interactive that they really like get hooked onto. If you can solve one of those things, then trust basically takes a backseat. Of course, as it's sort of like our duty when we are building products, that we need to make sure that we have every safeguard there, when it comes to data, when it comes to privacy. But I don't think it should, like, unless it's something like some sort of a financial product or like a banking product, that trust should even be a part of your pitch, as a consumer product, right? Your pitch should be that, okay, performance can be part of the pitch. What it makes you feel as a consumer should be part of your pitch. How it solves your life, maybe saves you hours, saves you money, that should be part of the pitch. So yeah, I think that what we have also like kind of has been like our thesis is also that how can we make it more usable? How can the experience be more fun? Like, we kind of like, even when you're trading it on CapX app, like we're still trying to make it much more faster. But at no point do we want people to feel like it's a decentralized exchange. At the end of the day, it is a decentralized exchange, a CapX super app, right? But when you're trading, it should feel as seamless as buying it on Binance or Qcoin, right? The experience should be as seamless, and that's what we are trying to do. Like, even the signing of transaction is invisible. There's no signing of transaction which the user has to do. There are no multiple approvals that the user has to do. So those sort of things. So just make it fun, and then of course gamification layers can be put in. Some leaderboards can be put in. There can be some, like, especially for power users. Let's say there are 1 million people on your app, but probably only 10,000 people would be power users who would go out there. So that's I think something which kind of worked for us.
Got it. No, very interesting. I see a lot of focus on abstraction and solving for UX from your personal thesis and CapEx's thesis. Super nice to know that that's been there. And I think completely agree with the utility and privacy part. I think it's always going to be a very small niche. I mean, we all do end up allowing a lot of terms on a lot of other products before even ChatGPT app, and that blew things up. But awesome. Mrudul, we want to ask you a question next. So I already congratulated you on the mainnet launch. My question to you is, from week zero to mainnet for a chain like yours that's building on Arbitrum Orbit, what's a minimal infra plan? Like, what does the minimal infrastructure to get there looks like? And in your experience, what's the top one mistake that you've seen teams make? Since you're in business development, it also makes sense to ask you this question and get your insights for that.
Yeah, definitely. I think majority of the projects that we kind of work with have been Arbitrum Orbit projects, right? And like you take Huddle, you take Zero G, you take Ether, all kind of started off as like an Arbitrum Orbit project, and they've outgrown it to like being like these huge communities as well as projects in general. I think for us, I think it's mainly about if you are building on it, it's more about keeping it simple, like not putting too many layers on top of it. So whatever in terms of nodes, if I say if everything should work well with your ecosystem. So if you are creating an agentic layer, there's data that is important for you. So there should be a data layer, and if you want to decentralize the whole thing up again, so you can have your data nodes spread across the network. Similarly, if there are inferences that are being made on multiple regions, so they should be inference-based nodes, GPU-based nodes, in certain locations, so that you get prompts or you get responses in a very easy and smoother fashion. You don't need to go all out at the start of itself. I think the way to it is just progress slowly. And testnet plays like a very crucial role in that sense, where you kind of then start seeing in terms of where you are getting the traction from, and then basically expanding that to different areas and regions as you progress to. I think that's the exact formula that we applied for, and we always recommend to. And I think mistakes wise, yeah, I mean, uh, it's more about like it's good to have or keeping your hopes high, but testnet kind of plays a very big role in terms of how you are planning your launch, at the same time how your products are getting response from the users, and that's where you put in a lot more um, focus on, and then basically go mainnet or do your own TG thing. But people kind of rush into things quite a lot, or projects. So I advise not to do that usually.
Got it. Makes sense. Keeping it simple. There's this KISS rule, no? Keep it simple, silly. I think I'm not too sure. But thank you so much for that. Next question is to Ayush from Huddle. Ayush, help us understand, because Huddle is also a project that was not something that every other person in crypto was thinking about. I mean, people were thinking about DeFi, yield farming, and this and that, and then you all were like, "Oh, we gotta go head on with Zoom." So, who is your ideal global customer? And we're talking about global here. And where did you meet them online? How do you market? Like, how are you finding them? That okay, this is the person that would become a long-term user of Huddle and would bring in the LTV back to Huddle, which is LTV's long term value, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think very interestingly, my co-founder Sushmit, he built one of India's first decentralized exchange back in 2018. It got acquired by CoinDCX back in 2019. So obviously had this kind of feeling when we started tinkering around this idea during a hackathon that, oh, let's do something financial. But at that time, COVID was at its peak. And that's where we had noticed something very interesting, something which impacted us and also a lot of people generally, was people were using all these communication platforms in general, and that's the time when the shares of Zoom also were skyrocketing to $400, which is now back to $20. That's where we realized that there is a very interesting kind of dynamics where people who are in low bandwidth areas of the world, they were not having kind of good connectivity. That means they were using Zoom, but they were chatting on WhatsApp, and we're asking other people that, hey, what did this other person say? So there was a huge latency problem, which we realized it's not a Zoom problem. So basically, it's a problem of data centers. It's a problem of data centers located only in certain parts of the world, and which is privy to land laws and labor laws in general. And the biggest data centers are generally in US or in Europe. It's not essentially in APAC regions or in India. So that's where anyone who was chatting on Zoom in India, let's suppose in Odisha, and the internet connection is not good, they were all not having good kind of experience. That led to a bad collaboration, bad coordination, and hence bad communication. And that's where we thought that, hey, we need to go head on, basically on two ways, both on the consumer app on the Zoom side, but also on the data center side of things. So we wanted to build this real-time connectivity network where if you and I are doing a call, if you have a good CPU, and a good bandwidth, you can become a node and you can power the call of all of us. But to do that, we realized we need to solve this chicken and egg problem. We can't just build supply side. It's like Uber, where you can get drivers, but if you don't have customers, what will you do with the drivers? Which happens with a lot of deep based use cases where the supply is so much, but it becomes a ghost network after a time. So we took that leap of faith that, hey, let's build the consumer app first. It was a very, very hard thing to do. We literally took us 3 years to build a very I'll say very smooth app, which we built because of a lot of feedback, brutal feedback from the customers. We're like, hey, you should add this, you should do these kind of things. And when we did that, that really we really built this app, and that app has now is a combination of both Zoom as well as StreamYard, which really helps two kind of people. Number one, it helps people who are in Nigeria, it helps people who are in APAC region to have a better kind of call, where they look the quality is 1080p. It's not 480p or 240p when they're chatting. uh, and they are in different parts of the world, so they get connected to a node in Nigeria rather than getting to a server which is in US. That really helps in distance versus displacement kind of scenario, where it's much more nearer to you. That's first. And secondly, it's more creator focused, where any creator who wants to live stream on Twitch, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram in one click, they can do that via the platform itself, which is not possible via Zoom. So that's why, like, creators as well as people who require low latency, both of them really loved using it, and that's how we started building this kind of a very good demand layer, which really supported our supply layer, and that's how more and more people want to run nodes, buy nodes, and work towards it. So this basically cyclical loop really helped us in creating a customer persona on both sides, supply and demand.
Got it. No, makes sense. I remember my days of giving Yash, who's part of your business development team, some feedback on Huddle. And I think he was extremely, extremely quick to get back on all of those things. And then I think in my previous job, we did sessions there. And it's a good note for us that, next time open house is happening, it's Huddle where we are getting on. By StreamYard.
Absolutely.
That's the scenario we'll get to. But good to know about that. Coming to you, Mrudul, this time, let's start with some interesting points from you. Very, very simple question. Managed RPCs versus self-hosted nodes. What is a simple rule of thumb for early teams, projects that are building in the same space as yours, in the same ecosystem as yours, and maybe are at the same stage as yours? What's your view on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think RPCs, like every project uses RPCs. It's like the backbone, or like at any time you want to query a chain, you need RPCs, right? But um,
Just a
most of
quick
the times,
Sorry,
yeah.
so sorry to interrupt you, but there may be people who may not know what RPC is, so it would just help if you quickly explain that piece as well there.
It's okay, sure. So RPCs are like request procedure calls. Just imagine it to be very similar um, in a way that anytime you want to process or access some data from a blockchain, you basically uh, request a procedure call, and then basically at that point of time, you get that data. It's very similar to how we see everything in Web2, where you make API calls from a particular database. It's exactly that. Because this is blockchain, the data keeps adding up. The node kind of keeps getting bigger, heavier. But yeah, I mean, it again plays a very integral part. Uh, Projects who are just starting up in Web3, they tend to use public RPCs, which is totally fine to use, because there's not much of transactions that are happening, or there's not much of uh, chain query that you have to end up doing, because you're not hitting that level of scale as of now. But projects which are like mid to or mid level, or are scaling, that at that point of time you kind of end up going to someone like Alchemy, Infura, or NodeOps at that time, and basically access these RPCs, so that you make sure that none of your services are getting disrupted at any point. Lastly, I think um, when you have like all this going on, at the end of it, if you are getting really good traction, I mean, and you're querying all the time, I still won't suggest hosting an RPC node by yourself, because a managed one would be much more simpler and easy to cater to, and there's always a team whose collar you can hold, so that they do their work well. I think, and this is like one thing which is very important. So I think it's always better to go for a managed provider rather than hosting by your own. Centralized exchanges, sometimes they do host it, but they have like huge teams at their disposal to manage these things. Apart from that, I don't think a lot of folks or projects manage any of their nodes. So yeah, I think that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, shared responsibility. Always, it's just a joke there, but yeah, it always works out better. Coming to Vaibhav, so we have two more questions, one for Ayush, one for Vaibhav, and then we have a very, very interesting 5 minute round where we're going to be putting our panelists on spot. It's going to be fun seeing them. I mean, all our builders are used to stress situations. It won't even be as stressful, but it should definitely be fun. Vaibhav, coming to you, you mentioned a couple of things that are getting built in the CapEx ecosystem. I want to understand why build a specialized L2 for AI apps and agents instead of launching on a shared layer 2 blockchain. And what did the Arbitrum stack that you used unlock for you and for CapEx as a company?
Right. So something which was like very important for us was that how much of a, like, even with respect to on-chain experience, and specifically about, some sort of custom contracts with respect to, let's say, gas rebates, or sponsoring gas tokens for specific wallets, or like, power users, or having some sort of even revenue sharing, which is inbuilt into the agent token contracts. So all of these things are something which are changes to the original, let's say, ERC20 contracts that need to be made. Or let's say right now we are exploring EIP 7702, which is not even ERC yet, so not all chains support it. So that's essentially the next step of account abstraction and smart accounts, where any sort of an EOA can be changed into a smart account. So we want to explore these things, and we wanted more customizability when it comes to like implementing these things. And there are some more parts of it that we are currently exploring. So in order to do that, an L2 made a lot of sense, specifically when it comes to keeping that sort of experience as tight and seamless as possible. Right, because if we are trying to do even if I specifically talk about trading, if we are trying to do trading on some other chain, we are kind of dependent on their performance. But here we have some leeway of, like, what infra changes can we do in order to like boost the performance of the chain itself, and make the trading seamless. So these were some of the decisions that we took, that why we wanted to do our own L2. And Arbitrum was, at the time, we were exploring all the L2 stacks that were out there. There was OP, there was ZK from Polygon, and ZK Sync. And the most ready L2 stack at the point was Arbitrum. The most with respect to performance, the best stack was Arbitrum at the time, and even the only stack which allowed us to have a native gas token. So these were all the reasons why we went with Arbitrum at the time. And now, like, it's been like almost a year and a half now, and it's been a great experience so far.
That's super, super nice to know. I think the custom gas token piece that Vaibhav just mentioned, just for our speakers, a quick point is the customization that Orbit stack from Arbitrum offers. So whenever you're building, whatever you're building in Buildathon, make sure that if you're building a project, if you're building a product that requires all of these customized features, you explore Orbit really, really well. And thank you so much, Vaibhav. CapEx everywhere, Arbitrum everywhere. I was super excited when I saw that whole movement, and I'm like, wow. It actually started with CapEx, and then a lot of other projects started putting it out there as well. Super nice to know about this. Now coming to Ayush. Ayush, it's like a bit of a situational question for you. Let's say there's a school in Brazil, and then there's a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization in Germany, and they're both using Huddle. I mean, the kind of use cases that everybody would need it. What are the two things that would change in onboarding people in both of these, let's say, regions? It could be about the onboarding process, the pricing, anything. So we're talking about developed world and developing world. And you mentioned a lot about the APAC focus and West focus for Huddle. So what would be the one or two things that would change in your process to onboard folks from these communities, these regions?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great question, and I can actually share a good experience, real life experience on this. So Arbitrum DAO, for example, uses Huddle 01 Meet for a lot of their use cases, and one of the major things which we had seen was that in Arbitrum DAO, during any kind of governance calls which happens, you can actually token gate those calls via ARB tokens itself. So only the holders who have those tokens can enter those calls. So that became kind of a very good kind of use case for a DAO itself, and that's where a lot of DAOs use it. That means token gated kind of meetings where you don't need to do an SSO login via Google OAuth or via any other things, while without taking those data, your IP and your email address and your name and date of birth and stuff, just basically use the actual token which you have in your wallet and go about it completely. In terms of what we have seen, at least for developing worlds, is very interestingly, at least a school in Brazil, is lot of educational based content needs to be recorded, and those recordings should be extremely cheap. And for doing so, if you're able to provide a very extremely economical recording, and you're able to provide a very decent latency where if a teacher is speaking and a student is listening, there is a latency of less than 100 milliseconds, that's where the problem gets solved. Which was not the case earlier when COVID had hit, and that's where a lot of rote learning happened for continuous 3 years, which created cascading impact for a lot of students all across the world who were not in developed nations in general. And that's a case of not just Zoom, but actually the data centers and where they are located and how internet is designed so far. So for developed nations, is more like ancillary feature sets on top of it, which essentially makes sure that exclusivity is there. But for a developing nation, it's majorly on the latency part, and also the economics of recordings is what we have seen working very well. And that's where we have seen all these. So we have a school actually in APAC region who uses it for just exactly this. And we have like DAOs like Arbitrum DAO who uses it because of features like token gate meeting and stuff.
Got it. Got it. Very well explained. It's a very utility governed piece, I think, and that what makes a great product. Great that multiple people are able to use it for what they require. It's like, I need the nail in the wall. I don't need the drill. Sort of a situation. Thank you so much, folks. People in the audience, of course, I understand, myself included, would want to hear a lot of these nuggets and gems from these founders. But we are coming to the end of time. Before we do one really, really fun round with all our panelists here, before we get to that, I just want to give a quick call out that if you're listening, if you're participating in Open House, and if you have any questions, shoot us a DM on Arbitrum India. We would love to help. If you're not able to shoot us a DM, drop a comment on any of the messages, and we'll make sure that we're able to hear you. There's also an Open House channel on official Arbitrum Discord, so you can ask any questions there. And those who are not participating, what the H are you guys doing? Go ahead, sign up and participate. We've actually put in a lot of thought and work into making this a superior builder experience. Coming to the panelists again, folks, what we're going to do right now is a quick myth buster and fact establishment round where I will put out one sentence, and any of you or all of you can give out your thoughts whether it's a myth or it's a fact. Now, the industry that we are in, for some people it might be a myth, for some it might be a fact. So there could be two sides of the coins here. Would be interesting to know, but yeah, you can choose, like, just one of you can answer, all of you can answer. We'll keep it quick. Once you say it's a fact or a myth, if you have a crisp reasoning on why do you think that it is, please add to that. So starting now, first sentence, you need, and you all can keep yourself muted. I will not be calling out any panelists. You can just choose to jump in and answer. First statement that we have is you need a token to launch an Orbit Layer 3. Is that a fact? Is that a myth?
That's a myth. You don't need a token. You can have a token. You can have a custom gas token, but you can use ETH. But if you have it, it's a good to have thing. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Coming to the second remark. Real-time media can't scale with on-chain coordination.
I think that's a fact. Not
That's
at
a
the
fact?
moment, at least. At the moment.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, yeah, people change, situations change, remarks and facts and myths can change as well. Cool. Coming to the third statement, launching a new chain kills liquidity for your app. All of y'all have launched new chains, guys, or products. Tell me,
Yeah.
does launching a new chain kills liquidity for your app?
I don't think so. It's a land of liquidity, Arbitrum. It doesn't kill it.
Interesting. That's so basically taking that as a fact from Ayush. Anything, Mrudul, Tyagi, could be having
It's
contrasting
a
views.
little nuanced, I would say. It's a little nuanced. Hard to put it black and white. Yeah.
No, I think
Makes
I mean it's a myth because like for us it stayed well. If you have good users, customers, it will always be you'll have always good liquidity.
Yeah, so multiple variables. Honestly, yeah, I absolutely agree with you that this. I mean, we put in some statements which are not easily answerable. I mean, can't make it so easy for you folks. Coming to the fourth statement, running your own nodes is always cheaper than managed RPC. We know who's answering this.
Myth.
It's Mrudul has already answered it. Yeah, it's a myth.
Yeah, Amrital actually explained the whole thing about this. So this is a clear myth. AI and blockchain means all inference must be on chain. Is that a fact or is that a myth?
I
That's
think
a
it's a
myth.
myth.
Yeah.
You
It's a
have
myth.
anything to add to that? Why do you think?
I think Tyagi can answer well.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like inferencing is something which, yes, you can bring verifiability to it. But even if you bring verifiability, you just need crypto economic proofs. You don't necessarily need a blockchain for it in order to bring verifiability to inferencing. And even if you do not have verifiability to inferencing, like it still can be an AIX blockchain project without having an on-chain inferencing. So yeah.
Got it. Makes sense. Next statement. Latency on layer 3s is always worse than on layer 2s. Is that a fact or is that a myth?
It's actually a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think it
mean,
depends on your shared sequencers and it's how it's architecturally designed. But it can actually be substantially faster as well.
Layer 3
Interesting.
is supposed to be faster, I feel like, than layer 2s. I
Yeah,
mean, they have to be cheaper and faster. That's the
because
whole point of having a layer 3.
yeah, it's because it settles on top of Arbitrum itself. It doesn't settle on top of Ethereum,
Yeah.
making it substantially faster.
Yeah, I think the simpleton view for people generally is that, oh, it's 2 layers above, so there's a lot of information flowing, like the most simpleton view that can be. And then they would say that, oh, all of the processes on both of these layers are sort of adding to it, but really well explained. It definitely is a myth. Small India based teams can't win global users without big funding. Is that a fact? Is that a myth? You can change the philosophy and
Myth.
motivation of a lot of builders right
Myth.
now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Vaibhav's like still thinking, really?
No, I said myth instantly.
Oh,
I
you did.
mean,
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, 100%.
I mean, you started with saying one people team, so
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. It doesn't matter where you're from.
Next statement. Orbit chains are inherently less secure than shared layer twos. Is that a myth or is that a fact?
I think that's a myth as well.
Okay. Anything to add to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Cool.
mean, like inherent chains being less secure than L2s. That's the statement, right?
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
statement is orbit chains are inherently less secure than shared L2s. Are they less secure,
Oh,
orbit chains, than other shared L2s?
I mean, they don't necessarily have to be. I mean, considering orbit, like specifically talking about orbit chains, they don't necessarily have to be less secure. In fact, orbit chains are L2s themselves, which are settling on Ethereum. If they follow the exact same sort of consensus mechanisms and decentralization mechanics, which are, let's say, being followed by Arbitrum Optimism, then they can be just as secure as well. That will, of course, make them much more expensive to run. But if they do wish to do that, they can be just as secure.
Got it. No, makes sense. I think it's a lot to do with design choices as well. I mean, it is a stack eventually. You choose pieces and how do you want to build through it. The last statement for this: gas spikes make consumer apps impossible on Ethereum stack. Is that a fact or is that a myth?
I think it is a fact.
Fact right now.
Unfortunate, but yeah.
Till Ethereum Foundation right now is changing a lot, so we don't know it's a fact right now, but it might become a myth in a couple of
I
months.
really hope someone from Ethereum Foundation's hearing, and if not, then we will take this call back to them and then be like, guys, come on, there's so much happening. Just one last bonus thing. Arbitrum is a great ecosystem to build in. Is that a myth or a fact?
It
It's a
goes
bit
without saying, fact.
That's just me taking back to the team. Let's see, guys, this was such a great panel, but honestly, it was a really, really fun panel. I mean, I've been just moderating for over 45 minutes, and y'all have put on so many insights and nuggets. Thank you so much. I really hope this was super helpful for the builders who are starting their journey on Buildathon. If you all think there's any other builders that you all know, do send us our way. And thank you so much. We are done.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Aditi.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Thanks, Aditi.